When MG announced the launch of their first electric car, the ZS EV, back in 2018, it was pretty groundbreaking stuff, making an affordable electric car. They then followed that up with the MG4, which was even more successful. But now with the all-new MGS5 EV, I feel like the 4's bigger brother might just be stealing the limelight. Sorry, little guy. And you're probably thinking, well, what is the point in a stretched out MG4? Because this front design kind of looks like the MG4's put on weight. If the MG4's me in summer, then this is me after gorging out over Christmas. But the reason for this is to replace the MG's first electric car, the ZS EV. So now this is the largest EV that you can get in an MG dealership, and for a pretty tidy price tag, as this car starts from just £28,000. So the S5 EV certainly has a related look to the MG4, the front especially with the lighting design, and that's replicated at the back with this rear lighting which goes all the way across the back of this car, gives it a very premium look. Except the difference between this and the MG4 is you do get a checkered light design, which is also replicated at the front. But overall, I think this kind of trumps the ZS EV in terms of its look. It feels more premium and definitely much sportier. And the S5 also outshines the ZS EV in terms of its size. It's taller, it's longer, has a larger wheelbase than its predecessor, and also the way that MG have designed their electric motor and also the battery size, which MG actually claim is no taller than a can of Coke. It has allowed for much more cabin space, which we'll get onto later in the video. However, that increase in size from its predecessor hasn't necessarily been reciprocated in the boot capacity, because it's kind of on par with the ZS, because you get 453 litres, but I think it's more than what you need. There's a good amount of storage, there's an underfloor storage compartment there, two little netting bits at the sides. Now with this being the top spec, you do get that power tailgate, which MG is showing real value for money once again. But that begs the question, what do you get for your money? Well, as standard, you get LED daytime running lights and LED headlights. 17-inch alloy wheels, with this being the top spec, they come with 18-inch. Blind spot detection. With the S5 EV, you also get keyless entry as standard. You also get digital dash, 12.8-inch infotainment screen with wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Parking camera and the sensors, top spec also gets 360 parking cameras, 5 driving modes, and 4 levels of regenerative braking, which allows for one pedal drive, as well as lane keep assist and hill start assist. Told you get a lot for your money. With all that said, I think you need to sit down. And what better place to take a bit of a breather than in this interior? Looking at the wider picture of the car market, this may be deemed an affordable SUV, but I say like quotation marks, because it certainly doesn't feel like one. It certainly has a premium feel. Massive center console, very sturdy, leather wrapped, has the Alcantara with your wireless phone charger pad, which comes with a top spec, or a little slot there if you don't want to be charging. Chrome and metallic effects, the automatic gear selector, 2 cup holders which are very deep. Your water bottle certainly isn't going to fall out when you're driving. Nice big door pockets, there is plenty of room. With this being the top spec, you do get electronically adjustable seats. I kind of want to demonstrate how practical they are, so no matter how tall or short you are, you're still going to find a good driving position. But while I'm showing you that, I'll talk more about the infotainment system. So this is a 12.8-inch infotainment screen, which comes as standard. It's a pretty responsive system, has everything that you need in it. As mentioned, you also get 360 parking cameras with this being the top spec. You also got your controls for your heated steering wheel, heated seats. I do like the fact that your climate controls are all a separate instrument, so you don't have to go faffing around the infotainment screen. Overall, I just think it's a very good system. Now, digital dash, although it's very large, I feel like it could have been upgraded just a little bit, because it's very simplistic in the way it looks and very much reminisces the MG4, but it shows what you need to. It's got your mile range, your battery percentage, it's got your traffic sign recognition, the speed you're currently doing, and your adaptive cruise control settings. So although it may be a simplistic look, it certainly does the job. Along the dash, you got leather, nice spongy material, carbon fibre effect. Obviously for £28,000, it's definitely not real carbon fibre, but gives that sporty SUV look. The only real scratchy plastic kind of come in this bit up here, which is out the way. You're not really bothered about that anyway. Leather wrapped steering wheel with all your controls. Overall, I just think it's a very nice interior. And the back certainly portrays how practical of an SUV this could be. This could be a perfect family car. Loads of legroom in the back. It's a completely flat floor. So even if you're in the middle, it's not a case of having your knees to your chin. Down there, still a rather comfy place to be. You get 2 air vents, only 1 USB-C port I can find, which is kind of a bit annoying. I don't know why there wouldn't be 2. There's certainly enough space for 2. but beggars can't be choosers. Nice finish on the seat, same as the front. Decent amount of storage in your pockets down here, but not loads. But you do get a very long armrest, do like that. With this being a trophy, comes with that rear privacy glass, and that depends on your spec, but with it, it kind of just gives that more premium feel. Now, I mentioned about this car's very much value for money. You do get a lot that comes from standard. But there's one element that kind of like, it doesn't make sense why this isn't in all of them, because although it's a nice benefit to have, it's not necessarily seen as a luxury. Well, not for me. And that's fold-down armrest. You only get this with the top spec. I mean, it's very nice. It's probably nicer than a lot of armrests. You do get some that kind of flop right down. That's very sturdy. Metallic effects with 2 cup holders. Cup holders could have been a bit deeper, but I still think it's a very rather practical system. Be nice if that come with all 3, but I guess maybe MG trying to cut corners to allow that affordable price tag with this car only starting for £28,000. Overall, I don't think there's much to complain about. I think on a long journey, I'd be very comfortable in the back of this car. And this car certainly is capable of long journeys, because the MGS5 EV can travel upwards of 298 miles and has the ability to get from 10 to 80% in less than 28 minutes, with this allowing up to 139 kilowatt rapid charging, which is just enough time to catch up on your favourite YouTube channel, like this one. Who's that handsome devil? Now, that rather practical 298 mile range only comes on the mid-spec, the SE long range. Trophy long range provides 288, so it's only a matter of 10 miles. Entry spec, the SE, which comes with a 49 kilowatt hour battery, still provides a rather practical 211 miles. And with battery sizes, mile range and premium features like 360 parking cameras being the main difference between the 3 specs, all 3 MGS5 EVs will still give a rather good design. And that sporty design certainly reflected in the performance, with a 0 to 60 time of 6.3 seconds, and with the multiple driving modes, put it in sport mode, then it's a pretty fun SUV, I've got to say. It seems to just zoom up to about 40 miles an hour, then it kind of starts to slow down a bit, but it's still a very quick car for the size of it. The fact this is bigger than the ZS EV and almost blows it out the water in terms of performance, always rather fun. Alright, it's not MG Cyber stuff fun, but it's certainly not Dacia Sandero level fun, if you get what I mean. It's definitely not just an everyday runabout. This kind of feels like you could go on a long journey, you could go to work, go to the shops, and you'd be comfortable. You wouldn't really be worried about having to leave big gaps, because you have that instant pull off the line, that really good torque. So overall, the performance is done very well. And as for practical, well, the climate controls are all set for infotainment screen. You can change them in the infotainment, but it's kind of a bit of a faff when you're driving to have to make sure you press the right buttons. Whereas the dials on your climate controls in this middle instrument panel here are actually rather smart. They're not just clunky plastic buttons, you know, the chrome effect. They're all quite small and quite uniform in the stance, but they look rather sharp and they do the well just how you expect climate control to do. In terms of safety features, well, across the 3 specs, you get exactly the same. Things like hill start assist, you know, also hold braking, lane departure assist, lane departure warning, blind spot detection, all that comes from standard. So SE long range, trophy long range, you're still going to be getting the same type of driving instruments. When you go up the specs, obviously the price difference comes from the bigger battery, which leads to better performance, which leads to longer mile range, and also things like wireless phone charge pad, 360 parking cameras. That's what you get when you climb up the specs. Despite this being a large car than its predecessor, the ZS EV, I think the manoeuvrability, the actual driving experience and handling is very smooth. With them 360 park cameras, and I think even if you got the base or middle spec and you had just reversing cameras, I still think it would be very manoeuvrable. The turning circle doesn't feel that big in terms of it being a large car. And the actual handling, it kind of lives up to its sporty SUV stance. It handles pretty well. As I quite clearly demonstrated earlier on in the video, there's plenty of adjustment in the seat, so despite me being a very short guy, I can still quite clearly see over the bonnet, I can see all around me, the wing mirrors are really large, and I just think it's a very practical car. And I think MG have been pretty cunning when it comes to the S5 EV, because they've already had the blueprints for an electric SUV from the ZS EV, and they kind of had the sporty electric car look of an MG4, and they kind of just merged the two together, and you're left with this very premium feeling SUV that has a bit of zippiness about it. You know, not 6 times 6.3 second isn't to be looked over, by the way. For an electric SUV, it's not bad going. And even if you go for the smaller battery from the SE, the 49 kilowatt hour, you're still getting a very practical and actually usable 0 to 60 time. The SE long range and the Trophy long range, which comes with a 64 kilowatt hour, then you obviously, bigger battery, you're getting a bigger performance. The digital dash could maybe have a bit more design to it. Kind of, you know, if it had some sporty accent, especially if you change the driving modes and put it into that sport mode. It'd be nice if it had like a nice little animation, but it still shows everything you need to. So I suppose that's where they've cut corners for the price tag, is little things like that that aren't really hindering your driving experience and experiencing owning the S5 EV. Because look, this car starts from £28,000 and even the top spec at £33,500. That's kind of like an entry-level Hyundai Kona EV or a Kia E3, Volvo EX30. That's sort of the price tag that you're looking at, but that's from the top spec. When you go to them base specs, you're not really getting things like 360 parking cameras, wireless phone charging, leather, you know, carbon fibre effect, Alcantara interior. And if you're comparing this to the likes of the Kona EV, the Volvo EX30, because they kind of rival off against each other, then I won't really say there's that much of a difference. Yeah, things like digital dash are nicer in there. You might have a few little nice design features. Maybe the fabric interior might feel a bit more high quality. However, it kind of doesn't take away from this car. Overall, I think it's a very good offering for what you get.